What you can expect on the front page of today's dailies. And as I mentioned earlier, I have with me Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, and the Daily Nation. On the front page of The Standard, it's all to do with the big question: is Uhuru losing grip on power, even as many project that he might be entering his lame, dark presidency stage? And they have this byline: the last few days have seen president's allies like Governor Anne Waiguru decamp to Ruto's UDA party, while others like Duale, in their response, have openly taken him head on. So they interrogate that particular question, bearing in mind the latest developments that have happened in recent history. So that particular story on the front page, they've highlighted the latest developments to do with the court stopping the swearing in of judges. Expect that on page 8 of The Standard, even as they're set to officially kick out Ruto from the Jubilee party. They're set to have a meeting perhaps later on this week. Page 5 of The Standard has more details on that. But on the front page of the Daily Nation, this is what you can expect. Heads want schools closed to end crisis. This is all to do with the education industry or the education sector, where their grievances are demanding crash program, omission of midterm break from the term's calendar, and removal of sports and other core curriculum activities, cited as some of the reasons for the wave of student unrest in various institutions. Now, teachers want students sent home to ease pressure caused by the schedule introduced to make up for lost time. Interesting developments right there. Even on the front page, they equally highlight how Uhuru's camp is setting the date to kick out rebels from the Jubilee party. The Jubilee National Management Committee and the parliamentary leadership are set to kick out renegade members from the party and ratify its coalition deal with the Orange Democratic Movement. That's the latest. Even on the international scene, and not just locally, so much focus into Agnes Wanjiru's death, and the prosecution's boss and the Attorney General failed to act on Wanjiru's murder. That's the latest on page 8 of the Daily Nation, even as there's concerted approach or concerted effort right now between Kenya security officials, equally with the assistance of the UK security intelligence, to perhaps get to the end of this particular case. But interestingly, still to do with the death of Agnes Wanjiru, I was just taking a look at a post just today, and according to news developing from the UK, a Labour Member of Parliament known as Miss Jess Phillips has managed to raise about 1.1 million Kenya shillings for Wanjiru's daughter, surpassing the initial target by 144%. Perhaps bearing questions on how local members of parliament can actually aid this particular family. But these are some of the stories you can expect in today's dailies. And just before we get into the thick of it, highlighting some of these political developments, allow me to introduce my panelists joining me bright and early this morning to help us put a perspective into some of these major stories. James Gakuya joins me right here in studio. It's been a while. He's the Member of Parliament for Embakasi North. Good morning, sir. It's great to see you.
Good morning, Rogers.
Welcome back.
Good to see you too.
Well, I'll definitely ask you about the impending exit from the Jubilee party. It seems they're tightening the screws right there. But before we get to that, allow me to introduce the other panelist. Makali Mulu equally joins us in studio. He's a Member of Parliament of Kitui Central. Good morning, sir. It's great to see you.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you for your time. We're equally joined by Wakili Ndegwa Njiru, who's a lawyer advocate. Thanks for your time, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, we'll definitely get into the thick of it. But perhaps let's start with the latest political developments. That story we highlighted just now in terms of the voter listing being extended. Wakili, this perhaps is your forte. What does this mean going forward, especially since we have one more week in terms of the voter listing process, even as we wait for that matter to be dispensed of in the corridors of justice? What's your reaction to this?
Well, we are living in very interesting times where the courts that we have do not actually create their constitutional boundaries when it comes to the interference with the independence of other institutions. In my view, I find it quite a bit interesting in one fold, in the sense that the IBC had previously indicated that they had no intention of extending the voters' registration period, and they claimed the same was informed by lack of sufficient funding. So when a court comes and issues an order, in the midst of the absence of funds for the IBC, and does not provide a solution of how the IBC will subsist these additional 9 days in the absence of finances, then it becomes a bit interesting on how those orders will be complied with and the outcome of the same. Nevertheless, the court was not, I think, alive to the fact that the registration has been going for the last 1 month, and the turnout has been quite worrying and quite embarrassing for the IBC and for the Kenyans. So when the court comes and issues an additional 9 days, and they are about to be extended, without taking into consideration the factors that might have necessitated the said apathy, then I'm thinking that probably the court, as usual, has then overstepped its mandate of trying to interfere with the operations of other organizations. You know, again, that also affects the IBC's ability to organize themselves for the election. How does that alter and affect the IBC calendar in terms of preparedness? So all those interferences are the ones that made us not be fully prepared in 2017 election. Remember, the court in the run-up to the 2017 election kept on giving orders that altered the course of events of the IBC. So we are seeing the same thread recurring again. You can remember, in 2017, as late as I think 1 or 2 days to the elections, we still had the Maina Kiai's case. The Maina Kiai's case it detailed that the finality of the election and the tallying was at the polling station.
Okay.
And remember, that was not legislated into the Election Act. Until to date, it still remains in the books of the legal interpretations and not in the Act of Parliament. So realize that that one really brought a lot of problems in terms of preparedness. So I think we need to have clarity as to what extent the court can interfere with this process in terms of preparedness of the IBC, and at what particular time can they not interfere if we actually at the eve of the election. To me, we are awaiting the unfolding of interesting times in the future.
Okay, let's see how this die will be cast. But even as you do that, Gakuya, do you look at this as interference? Because I'm pretty sure members of the political class might be smiling right now. 1 more week for Kenyans to go out and register themselves as voters. What's your reaction to this? And perhaps the low turnout of voters, what does this mean in terms of Kenya's trust to the process? Do the youth feel shunned due to their low turnout in terms of registration?
No, Judge. First and foremost, let me say the judiciary has not given itself or has not imposed itself into making verdict. It is just by a nature of a process that one made a protest to court that the time closure is not enough, and that petitioner is the one who was heard by the same court. And the court has to make a ruling at the end of the day. And surely, I believe that single voter who went to court to contest this has his constitutional right to do this so. And therefore, I don't find it so criminal that court did not consider the budgets that actually will occur in that window of 1 week. I believe that, in fact, the electoral body have their savings from within themselves. And I think within their savings, 1 week is not a major blow to them. And I am sure that they can be able to sustain themselves for that particular single week. Further to that, they understand very well how they communicate with the sources of funding. And this is a fully government funding. And I am sure that they can communicate to the Treasury for the same. because when the verdict is made by the court of law, it does not only affect the Electoral Commission, it has also to affect the Treasury, because the Treasury at the end of the day, it's exchequer money which will be released. And therefore, there is no way that the exchequer can expect Electoral Commission to find their own sources of money to cater for that particular 1 week. And therefore, it's a collective responsibility between the exchequer and the Electoral Commission to find a way on how to fill the gaps. And therefore, it cannot be left as a duty of Electoral Commission. Coming to the issue of apathy, I would also state very clear that the apathy is there and is fully witnessed, and youth has communicated. But what I can also say in this one, there was a duty that was neglected. That duty was civic education. Civic education is a duty given by the Constitution to the Electoral Commission. And the Electoral Commission has not any single civic education nationally. And this is a big blow, because it is a matter that is enshrined in the Constitution that they should first do civic education before this registration exercise, so that they can be able to entice and educate the youths on the importance of this particular exercise. Therefore, I would say the failure is either the funding process, which probably did not facilitate that particular segment of civic education, or else, if this was done, then it can be failure of the commission. But I don't find any single reason why the commission got the funding and failed to do the civic education. It tells you that the one who funds have some gaps that could not be able to fit the civic education. And therefore, I cannot fully blame the Electoral Commission. I can only blame the Exchequer and Treasury, because they are the people in charge to subject this issue of funding to this particular body.
Do you extend the blame to Parliament as well?
I am very sure that the Parliament at any single day has not watered down any funding of this exercise. And if there is, then we have a budget committee, which one time I am sure that also brought a case of that this particular body sometimes has extraordinary budgets. But for me, I would like to say it has to be collective, both starting from the budget committee, the Parliament budgetary process,
okay,
the Treasury, and trickle down to the user, who is the Electoral Commission.
Okay, well noted. Give us your take, Makali Mulu, because I'm looking at the papers right now. Kitui County has new registration up to 25,249, at least new voters who have been registered in this particular 1 month period. But since we're talking about IEBC capacity, do you think the Electoral Commission is being set up for failure? Because we all know it's a cash-strapped commission as it is right now. Barely 9 months to the general election. Is this a worry you're holding?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is a very interesting discussion. And what is even very interesting is that we are discussing two independent bodies. Judiciary is independent, and also IEBC is independent. It's an independent commission. And I agree with what our legal mind here is saying, that despite the fact that judiciary is independent and IEBC is independent, I think we need also to bear in mind that they don't operate in isolation. They operate in an environment where interdependence becomes very important. It's always good to check with the other arm of government or the commission to find out what is happening. Kenyans have been given a whole month to register. And now what the courts have done, they are only giving them additional 1 week. And the question is, if you have been having 4 weeks to register and you have not registered, do you think this 1 week will make a difference? The other thing we need to note as Kenyans is, while it is our right to register as a voter, it's not compulsory. So actually you can choose not to register and you still continue being out there. And to me, the most important question is, do we think it is attractive to register as a voter in Kenya for our youth? Because we've seen the youth complaining all over in this country, saying that we do vote every 5 years, and after voting, the promises we are given by our politicians are never fulfilled. They are never implemented. So you realize that there's a bit of the youth are getting to a level where they are saying it doesn't make any difference whether you vote or you don't vote. Because the reason why people vote is that you're able to get a number of your needs being addressed by the parties through their manifestos. But you know, this country, we have gotten to a level where we are very good at promising. But when you look at what we do in 5 years, there are lots of gaps. And I think it was also unfortunate that the courts are giving an additional 1 week for voter registration without telling Kenyans where the money will come from. What is going to happen now? We are creating more pending bills, and Kenyans will have to be taxed more to fund this particular 1 week. So what we are saying, we are living in a very different environment in terms of very difficult actually time now in terms of our revenue collection as a country. And we have huge deficits in terms of revenue collection because of Corona and other reasons. Now we have the drought in this country, which is also not doing us any better in terms of we are not doing anything good. So when we see this kind of judgments or kind of rulings, we ask ourselves, are these judges living in Kenya? Do they really appreciate the reality of this country? 1 week is not likely to make any difference. Like you have said, Kitui, you are only at that 25%, 25,000. We expected of 100,000. So we must be asking ourselves, why 80,000 has not registered in Kitui County while we expect them to register? And I'm very surprised that IBC thinks they will just register because they have given them 1 additional week. For me, I think it's a matter we need to discuss as a country, and it's time. All these institutions, parliament, judiciary, and the executive, and even the independent commissions.
All right.
It's time we realize that you can't just make decisions in isolation. You need also to look just the other side and know what are we doing by creating this particular or giving this ruling. Because now what will happen is, we have been accused as parliament of not giving more money to IBC. But the question is, we can only give more money if the money is there. If Kenyans cannot raise that money, then you have to borrow the money. Kenyans are all over crying, saying that they are overtaxed. So are we saying we want to borrow more money and we are all crying about public debt? So to me, there are important questions which must be considered, even as some of these rulings have been made.
Okay. Wakili, add your voice to this briefly, and perhaps the political angle, because the low turnout, especially amongst the youth, has raised various concerns. Others think they might not feel inspired to join politics in one way or the other. Or does it just boil down to civic education from where you sit? We need to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, right?
Yes, that is true. Let me just begin by where Honorable Gakuya left. I've had him making some blames as against the IBC in terms of the ability to offer civic education. But if he looks at Section 89 of the Constitution, of the County Government Act, the County Government Act has squarely placed the burden of civic education on the county governments. The county governments are supposed to operationalize, because they are the ones at the grassroots, civic education. Civic education encompasses a lot of thematic areas, including voters registration, including issues of budgetary and all those matters. But we can see there has been deliberate attempts by all the county governments in the country to frustrate that aspect of the civic education. If you try to scrutinize the reason why county government do not invest in civic education, it's simply because they do not want to enlighten the public, so that the public may not become conscious of their surroundings and their environment. In return, the ability for them to be conscious will facilitate them to lose the ability to call the county governments and the government or even parliament into account and into an aspect of calling for good governance, accountability, transparency, and abiding by the rule of law. So it is by design that the county government and parliament has failed to make sure that this happens. For one reason, if the county government has failed to offer civic education, it is the responsibility of Senate, which is parliament, to ensure that it is done, to ensure that they have given oversight in those matters. Oversight does not necessarily mean to check out whether the governor has stolen money or the money has been appropriated into the right useful manner, but also includes whether the county government is meeting the functions under Section 5 of the County Government Act. That is what oversight means, because civic education is one of the functions of the county government. When it comes to the question of the voters' registration and the apathy,
All right.
it does not surprise you that the petition is filed in Eldoret. It is filed in Eldoret for one design, that the Karen brigade is the biggest loser if the voters' mobilization is not done and if the youths do not mobilize, do not register as voters. Why? Because if you look at the Ukambani region, Kalonzo Musyoka and his people still have their votes that were in 2017.
All right.
If you look at Mount Kenya region, Uhuru Kenyatta still has his voters and his supporters who supported him.
Okay.
If you look at Nyanza, still Raila Odinga and even Western people like Akina Mudavadi, they still have their supporters.
All right,
The
all right.
person who doesn't have a clout
Okay.
is the current brigade, because their hustlers has refused to
Okay.
register,
Okay,
and that
Wakili.
places them in a very compromising situation.
Okay, Wakili, I think your message is definitely across. We'll give Gakuya a chance of reply right after this short break, even as we get to take a look at some other stories that are equally making headlines in today's dailies. It's not just about the ongoing voter registration exercise that has been extended for a week due to that particular High Court judgment that is pending still. We'll be back with more in terms of the economy and politics equally. As I mentioned, the front page of the Standard questions if Uhuru is losing his grip on power. Not just that, equally, that particular reprieve coming in the way of the Chief Justice in terms of the court stopping the swearing in of those 6 judges, which was sort of pushing a possible confrontation between the executive and the judiciary. We'll be back with this and much more. You're watching Morning Express. Stay with us.
This is KTN News.
Are you ready? Run the record.
Are you ready for the 7th edition of the Pulse Music Video Awards 2021?
Nataka kukuona one last time.
This year, we are unmasking the beat. Get those nominations coming through and we will bring the art to you. Simply log in to www.standardmedia.co.ke/PMVA and submit your favorite music video from the 1st of October to the 7th of November. This year, we are bigger and better. Pulse Music Video Awards. The only way to get alive.
Dau la elimu ni kipindi chako cha kila Jumapili katika kituo cha KTN News saa 11 jioni hadi saa 12, nami Franco Tieno ninapokuwa na jopo langu tunapochambua kwa kina masuala kuhusiana na mipangilio ya elimu kwa ujumla kuanzia chekechea hadi viwango vya juu vyuoni.
Tunasomesha walimu, wanafunzi na pia wazazi.
Tulipoteza muda mrefu kutokana na hili janga la corona.
Wachambuzi wakiwa ni wale ambao walikita kambi katika masuala ya ualimu na elimu.
CBC imejaribu sana ku make sure hakuna mtoto yoyote atawachwa nyuma.
Tunaweza kuwa tunaanza kusema ati serikali haijafanya, lakini kile tuko nacho tushukuru Mungu. Kile tunatakiwa kufanya ni tutie bidii, tuiweke iwe nzuri kushinda vile ipo.
Gender-based violence is one of the biggest challenges, but people don't want to talk about it. It is complex, it has a stigma, but since the chiefs live near us, they can always tell which home is having those difficulties and they have been supporting us. And I am quick to point out, it's not just addressing those issues for the sake of addressing, but that is how countries get developed, where you treat men and women equal.
This is KTN News.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with Morning Express. In case you're just joining us, my name is Jesse Rogers. With me, I have a well-abled panel. I'm joined by Ndegwa Njiru, lawyer advocate, James Gakuya, Member of Parliament, Embakasi North, and Makali Mulu, the Member of Parliament, Kitui Central. Just taking a look at some of the latest news making headlines, what you can expect in today's edition of the Daily Nation and the Standard. Just hinting at the front page of this particular dailies. On the Standard, it's all about questioning, is Uhuru losing his grip on power? Even as the Daily Nation goes big with the political developments of the day, Uhuru's camp sets date to kick out rebels. And we'd like to begin this particular phase of the show with this story on the ruling Jubilee Party, which is now set to deregister Deputy President William Ruto and his allies fronting UDA party in a movement to oust the Deputy President from the position of Jubilee Deputy Party Leader. A senior political affairs reporter Jeff Kirui explains the ball is once again in President Uhuru Kenyatta's court. He's to set the date for the National Delegates Conference this month to ratify that decision.
Plans to kick out Deputy President William Ruto from Jubilee Party and ultimately out as the Deputy Party leader are in earnest. Jubilee Management Committee is now waiting on President Uhuru Kenyatta to convene the National Delegates Conference to meet to either endorse or reject the move. The meeting is also expected to ratify a decision to revoke party membership of Ruto's allies elected on Jubilee ticket, but now allied to United Democratic Alliance UDA.
The NDC is the highest party organ, and whatever the NDC decides prevails.
For the party officials, it's only a matter of time before the party officially endorses a move to kick out the deputy party leader, that is Deputy President William Ruto, only pending a date set by President Uhuru Kenyatta to hold the National Delegates Conference.
We are going to be very firm on that. You cannot sabotage from inside. If you believe in the ideals of UDA and you are a member of Jubilee, the most honorable thing to do is to resign.
However, the Delegates Conference could also eat its own, as it emerges that a section of Jubilee Party members are seeking for complete overhaul of the party leadership, with the Secretary General Raphael Tuju and Vice Chair David Murathe on the chopping board.
If they are not shaping up, we might be calling for some changes, because you cannot just be a party official by name. We want you to be a party official, but at the same time making sure that you are fighting to have as many members as possible of your party.
What they are talking is mere talk. There is nothing that can change. Raphael Tuju is an extension of President Uhuru Kenyatta. David Murathe is an extension of President Uhuru Kenyatta. So if they want to deal with the real problem in Jubilee, they will have to face the president head on, something I don't think they are prepared.
I welcome any criticisms. It comes with the territory, and I'm ready to live with it.
After the March 9th handshake between Jubilee Party leader President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM chief Raila Odinga, the two have been on a united political path in what they term as bringing the country together. The Delegates Conference also set to deliberate on the formalization of the unity of the two parties into a coalition that will see them front one presidential candidate in the 2022 polls.
Well, our discussions with the ODM are ongoing. There are discussions which have been done at our level, and there are discussions which are done at the level of the the two-party leaders. It is beyond my pay grade to divulge to you anything which has come up at the level of the two-party leaders.
Sources within the party say should the coalition agreement pushed through, then ODM and Jubilee Party will also field candidates jointly.
Thank you very much.
Jeff Kirui, KTN News.
All right, sources intimate that the National Delegates Conference could be held this particular month. And according to sources, the president plans to use that NDC to sort of ratify the coalition with Raila Odinga's led ODM party. So Gakuya, as a defunct member of the Jubilee party, because it sponsored you to parliament in the 2017 election, well, what say you about this move to kick out DP Ruto from the party's hierarchy? He's definitely cast his stone with the UDA party clearly. What implications might this have going forward? Is it all just to change the political perception?
Not just, first and foremost, let me be very clear on this, that it has been long overdue. At this particular point in time, already the one purported to be evicted or to be forced out of the party is already popularizing another party. And this tells you that actually it's only that he has not officially resigned from the Jubilee party, but clearly the body language and everything else speaks by itself that the deputy president is no longer a Jubilee member. It's very true and very clear constitutionally that he was elected under the banner of the Jubilee party. But at this particular point in time, if we can start pointing fingers, I would say, as a member of the Jubilee party, the rain started falling on us after handshake. Because there before, there was a unity in the Jubilee party, but immediately after handshakes, things started shaping differently. And afterwards, that's when we realized that the handshake was even beyond what we knew. And the handshake today has resulted to merger of ODM and the Jubilee party. And this tells you this was the main intention right from the beginning. And if you are a wise person and you see a smoke somewhere, you must be ready that any time fire will blow. And this is what the deputy president learned. And with very quick and speed, he realized that he will be banned under this banner of Jubilee, and he's going to be locked. And possibly he's not going to get any clearance to become a presidential contender through this particular banner of Jubilee party. And this is what it has now witnessed, that the Jubilee party today is merging with an opposition party, which is ODM. And it's very clear that the Jubilee party itself is not going to have a candidate. And they are going to look a candidate from the opposition side. And this is it. And this is in history, a history that is going to be to remain in our books, that a ruling party of a single time relinquished its mandate of being the super powerful party and chickened to merger with an opposition party. And to me, it is of no surprise, because we have been expecting these kind of things to come, and the time is already ripe for the parties to shape out. And therefore, the decision that is being made by the NDC to kick out the deputy president is only for a political perception, because already everybody else knows that the DP belongs to UDA. It's only that he has not officially vacated from the party, and I think it's a long time. It's a long overdue that the time has come. I would say the NDC, for the first time, we have witnessed the party convening an NDC. For the last 10 good years, we have 9 good years, we have not witnessed such kind of action, and therefore it tells us the party has been working or leading on the long direction, because such a kind of NDC ought to have come very earlier, because the problem that now we are in could have been resolved by the NDC if the NDC was convened such earlier time before. But now it has just come to rubber stamp, which already cannot be resolved by the current regime.
Okay, and we well know what the Constitution says about those members who don't prescribe to the advanced ideals of a party. They should actually be deemed to have resigned. So is there any impact, perhaps on your side, particularly Gakuya, since you're one of these members of parliament who seem to have decamped to the UDA party? What say you about?
One thing constitutionally, one has to be limiting to the party, and that one has been so compliant on it. I have not reached the party officially, personally, but if I am kicked out, I'm ready to go, because I am ready to decamp anytime, because the Constitution has given time frames, and the time frames is by February next year.
Okay.
There is a window of 6 months, of which before election, anybody who is a civil servant or whoever would like to join the political field is given a room by the Constitution. And therefore, that is the right time. But in case it comes earlier, I think I have no problem with it.
Okay, interesting. Since we have a Wakili in the group, Wakili, as you perhaps add your voice to the ODM and Jubilee merger, what happens in the case of a certain member of parliament sponsored by Jubilee Party and you get kicked out, you lose your party membership? Will this also prescribe to losing your position as a member of parliament? How does this work, and what does the law say?
Allow me to begin by reminding Mheshimiwa Kuya, who has decided to conveniently forget and select what to remember, in the sense that he has forgotten that this is not the first time, there is no history in the making, in the sense that Jubilee and ODM are merging. He may remember, or he may choose to remember, that in 2007 we had PNU forming a coalition government with the ODM. Perhaps he may also try to check out from other jurisdictions and realize that in Germany, the opposition has always merged and formed government with the party that has won the election. So he might want also to address himself to the dynamics of the changing dynamics of politics, in the sense that he must realize that currently the political environment allows mergers and coalitions. So in my view, ODM coming together with Jubilee is nothing, it does not come as a surprise. In any case, probably and perhaps the member of parliament might want to address himself to the question that currently we do not have an opposition party in Kenya. We have a majority party and a minority party in parliament. That aspect of opposition is a fatigue from the old constitution. So in my view, there is nothing unique. It is legally allowed by the Political Parties Act. And there is nothing new that is happening, because political parties must be able to form coalitions with friendly parties. In the question of the kicking out of the deputy president, I think that is long overdue, as he says. He should have been kicked out. And my cue, you might want to look at Section 14 of the Political Parties Act. Section 14 has created two mechanisms in which a member of a political party can cease being a member. One, you can have voluntary resignation or involuntary resignation. Voluntary resignation is where you write to the political parties indicating, the political party and the political party registrar, indicating that your intention to cease being a member of a political party. Involuntary resignation is provided for under Section 14, subsection 5. And for purposes of informing our viewers, allow me and permit me to just read it. It says, a person who, while being a member of a political party, forms another political party, joins the formation of another political parties, joins another political parties, in any way or manner publicly advocates for the formation of another political party or promotes the ideologies of another political party, shall, notwithstanding the provisions of subsection 1, or the provisions of any other written law, be deemed to have resigned from the previous political party. So you are actually deemed. In matter of fact, the Jubilee is just being magnanimous in calling for